Yeah, well, basically, I mean, this isn't a criticism of either side, but it's the mentality we've developed over the years is that we use reason as a weapon. So, on like the gun control thing right now, that's such a big deal. People they make their statements and they make those statements not with the sense of we can solve this problem, but the sense with we can out-argue you. And the reality is, and it's not just this issue, it's just about every issue, is that a bunch of people line up on the left, a bunch of people line up on the right, and the power brokers decide to break the tie. So if the corporate elite wants something a certain way, then the lefties want single payer and the righties want free market health care. And the power brokers say, well, here's a compromise. Let's give you that. And when Obama announced Obamacare, he said, well, we have the approval of the Hospital Association, the Pharmaceutical Association, the American Medical Association, and Blue Cross. And I said, that can't be good. That's like saying we have a burglar alarm that 4 out of 5 burglars recommend. And whenever the left and right just lock horns with each other, then the power brokers they're going to come up with this is the tiebreaker. This is the deal that you're going to get. And they'll tell the right wingers, look, it's either this or single payer. And they'll tell the left wingers, look, it's either this or private insurance, free market health care. And both sides settle for something that really entrenches the corporate elite and doesn't necessarily make anything any better. So,
Obamacare works for a lot. Works for me. If it hadn't been for Obamacare, I wouldn't have been able to retire.
It's not about you.
And yes, I pay $200 a month for it. But I'm a 64-year-old woman that has pre-existing conditions. If I had gone anywhere to private insurance, it would probably cost me about $1,400 to $1,700 a month. Mm-hmm. So yes, for some people it does work.
Yeah. The question is, what is it costing overall? My
question is, what is it costing when they put $180 billion into a damned aircraft carrier, or they'll put $1 billion they put $1 billion into a damn fighter plane.
Well, see, this
is ridiculous. Things that we don't need.
What you're doing. You're giving me a good example of.
Well, you're talking about what you don't realize is it's a drop in the bucket compared to other things.
Okay, I was using that as an example, and I'm more concerned with the process. So when I look at the process, I see that both sides are ready to do what you just did, which is use their arsenal of facts as a weapon to win this argument. And what I'm looking
I don't have to win an argument. I've had Obamacare ever since it came out, and I was very fortunate to get it. And I'm not. I don't argue about it, but it's like I won't listen to people that say it's not good, it's bad, it's worthless. Nobody should get it.
Well,
a lot of people put it down.
Excuse me. My point is that when people.
Can I talk for just 1 minute?
I wish you wouldn't.
What a lot of people don't understand is a lot of people put it down and say bad things against it, but yet they've never gone on the website. They have no idea. All they say is, "Oh, I would never sign up for Obamacare. That stuff's terrible. That's horrible." They've never been on the website, so they don't know what they could get for what price.
Well,
a lot of people could be getting a cheaper insurance.
Okay,
I don't even go on the site because it's Obamacare, and that is the truth. I've heard people say that.
That is a truth. My truth is that my wife works for Trader Joe's, and I'm retired. And when Obamacare came in, they cut our benefits and they raised her prices because Obamacare made everything more complicated for them. So, there's lots of complicated things to get into here. And it's not that one side is perfectly right and the other side is perfectly wrong. But
it works for some. It doesn't work for all. But somebody that doesn't have any income at all can get insurance, even if they have a pre-existing condition. That's never happened before with insurance.
The thing is, we won't get anywhere. We'll never get anywhere talking about personal anecdotes. We're looking at the society as a whole and what's happening to society as a whole, not just to you or me. But
Well, it's not just me. I've got several friends and family and everything that are on Obamacare.
But see, please stop doing exactly what I'm saying people do that makes the system not work. People do not approach this as, could there be a better solution? They say, look, it's good for me, therefore I'm for it. Or, look, it's bad for me, and therefore I'm against it. And everybody lines up, but they don't win. You don't win because one side was stronger and one side was weaker. You win because the people in the middle say whoever gives us more power is going to win. So, Obamacare might work for some and be better for some and worse for others. But a real solution to the problem is something we could have reached for if people were talking to each other instead of arguing with each other or attacking each other. And I'm looking at all these issues. I just picked Obamacare as an example, where one side was locked in. The Democrats, the left end of the Democrats didn't want Obamacare. They wanted single payer. And the right end didn't want anything, and they weren't talking to each other. So Obama came and brokered a deal with the insurance industry that they had the experts. And whether you love that deal or hate that deal or think it's a little better or think it's a little worse, the fact of the matter is that deal was not worked out through any kind of rational process where people reasoned with each other. And so
But, Dan, the Republicans have had years to come up with something
it's
better,
exactly what. Okay, you cut me off.
Better,
you cut me off. Stop. You just cut me off to say what I was trying to say. The Republicans did not come to the table to reason it out, and the hard left Democrats did not come to the table to reason it out. So we did not have the kind of discussion that might have found much better alternatives than what we have.
Yeah, I think it should be Medicare for all.
Well, again, that's the hard
Medicare
left
for all.
That's the hard left position, and that's fine if you can start that. But there's a lot of things that nobody talked about at all. Nobody talked about the fact that it's one of the things the progressives did, and this was called restraint of trade. It should be illegal for a hospital or for an insurance company to require the hospital to charge you more than they pay. This began with Standard Oil, that in order to get Standard Oil contracts, the railroads had to charge other oil producers a surcharge over what they charged Standard Oil. And this was the antitrust laws abolished this. You can't tell a patient who has no insurance that he has to pay $600 when the insurance company and the copay combined only have to pay $250. So what the insurance companies have done over the years is come up with a way to use their power, because Blue Cross especially is huge. They use their power to say an uninsured person is not only going to have to pay out of his own pocket, but you're going to charge him 2 or 3 times what you're going to charge us, the insurance company. And nobody fought that, because that means fighting the insurance companies instead of fighting each other. There's lots of things like that. The fact that we have a pharmaceutical monopoly that charges 10 times for medicine what Europeans pay for medicine they imported from the United States.
Oh,
and
I
it's
know.
illegal.
Yeah, I know.
And it's illegal for us to import it back. Well, these
they
are the
said
things.
You can go down to. They said, well, I've got a friend that goes down to Mexico. They have a condo down there, and on about every street corner, there's a pharmacy, and you can buy anything you want for basically pennies on the dollar compared to here. I mean, you can get even what is the male enhancement drug? What is that famous one?
Oh, Viagra.
Yeah, so you can get down there just dirt cheap.
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
and
I don't want to
stay
too much. I don't want to stay too much on the healthcare issue because it was an example, but it illustrates the thing that here are some things that ordinary people would say, absolutely. The first thing you need to do is stop the insurance companies from making my hospital charge me, $1,000 in order to collect $500 from them, so that stop gouging the uninsured. That should be the first thing that everybody can agree on.
Well, but the insurance companies are very, very, very powerful.
Yeah. Well,
they're probably one of the most powerful entities in this country.
Right. And as long as the left and the right are fighting each other, there's no way that they can unite to fight these abuses.
Yeah, and as long as the politicians are taking the kickbacks, well, they're getting their pockets lined.
Yeah, but we as a people do not step back from our adversarial relationship. And so we don't reason things out. And there were times when we reasoned things out. The early progressives reasoned things out. The 60s left until around the mid-70s. The 60s left was full of teach-ins and, a lot of people coming up with things that nobody had advocated. There was, the 60s there was a lot of rejecting the socialists and rejecting the conservatives. They were fed up with McCarthyism and trying to stomp on dissenting thought. But most of the people in the 60s didn't like socialism. They just didn't like the idea that you can't of silencing them. Most people in the 60s said, well, you like communes? Go have a voluntary commune. Experiment with it. Try things. Think things through. And that didn't last long. We became intolerant of conservative ideas.
Northeast Texas. Go ahead.
I have a question for all your guests. I read somewhere that the wealth gap in the United States today is greater than it was in colonial days.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if that's true, but I suspect it is, and that's even accounting for slavery. It's greater now than it was.
They're always talking about the top 1%.
Yeah, well, the Pareto rule says it's the natural is 80-20. 20% control all the wealth, and 80% are the workers or whatever.
Yeah, well, 20% control 80% of the wealth is the normal,
right.
the ideal distribution.
It's greater than that now.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that the classical liberals, or not the early progressives, focused on, and I guess the classical liberals did too, was they made the distinction between wealth and privilege. So what the really rich people have is not actually wealth. It's actually legal documents that let them extract wealth from other people. So if I own the land, if I own most of the land, then everybody who wants to use land has to pay me tribute. Now, Adam Smith called it wealth of nations for a good reason, which was to make the point that the nation is not any wealthier when rents go up. The nation as a whole The nation includes all the people. So when rents go up, that means that some people have to pay more just to be there, and other people get to collect more for having a land title. And that doesn't make...
And some people can't afford it at all.
Well, right, and that creates other problems at all. And if you read Adam Smith, if you go to Wealth of Nations and look up on the rent of land, he just devastates landowners. Now, he does not devastate banking. The progressives came in and tied in banking and landowning together. Adam Smith was funded by the Duke of Buccleuch. And the Duke of Buccleuch was one of the largest landowners in Scotland, but his real power, and the reason his family is now the largest landowner in Scotland, is that he was involved in banking. And Scottish banking was heavily in the Duke of Buccleuch. So the classical liberals were very good on landlord abuse. They were very bad on banking abuse. And the American progressives, and even the American classical liberals, they went after banking hard too. But they ended up getting undermined. A lot of times they got undermined by socialists. Socialists joined the Knights of Labor to destroy it. Samuel Gompers said they tried to take over the American Federation of Labor but were unsuccessful, so they were trying to destroy it too. So you have the people who are trying to create genuine reforms being fought by the monopoly privilege on the right, and they're also being fought by militant socialists on the left. And the genuine reforms fall through the cracks. Martin Luther King was called an Uncle Tom by the people on the left, and he was derided by the. Now they hold him up, but the McCarthy people and J. Edgar Hoover people treated him as a communist, and he was never a communist. And the hard left treated him as a sellout because he refused to engage in violence, and he refused to attack private property and stuff. So he was attacked by both sides, and what he was able to accomplish was in spite of the fact that he was attacked by both sides. And I see in history, I see a lot of great leaders like that who their best proposals get stomped by the extremists on both sides.
So you think this gathering of wealth at the top, what do you think the population growth has to do with that? In other words, it seems to me that the more people you have on the bottom, the more it accrues to the wealthy 1%.
Well, the more tenants there are, the higher the rent the landlords can charge. And but that's one. I mean, the more people need money. When you have a system where banks create money out of thin air, the more people need money, the more banks get to lend that money and collect interest on something that they fabricated. It would be called counterfeiting if we did it, but it's licensed for the banks to do it.
But it wouldn't be possible, though, without millions, tens of millions of stupid voters.
Well,
right?
It distracted voters too, because there's so many organizations that want to focus on a lot of little things that would be solved. If we solved the fundamental things, the little things would be easier to work out, and the little things we could work out at the local level. But
what do you think the fundamental things are?
Well, there's
one or two or three.
Well, we have people renting us what is essentially our own land. We have people lending us what is essentially our own money. We have licensed monopolies like railroads and